So, welcome all to the second HUPMOBILE Project Advisory Board meeting. And due to the reasons we all know all too well, this is an online meeting instead of a physical one. And today we have here also our advisory board members, and we are delighted to have them. And currently we have present here, or we should have here currently present Liis Vahter from the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications, Sami Sahala from the Forum Virium, the City of Helsinki Innovation Company, Christopher Irwin from European Passengers Federation, and Pauli Korkeakoski from the City of Kotka, and Arto Rajärvi from the Väylä organization. And unfortunately, Kirsti Tarmanen-Sarjola from the Finnish Port Association nor Kai Klein from the Baltic Environmental Forum Estonia are available today. Here is, in a nutshell, the basic information of the HUPMOBILE project. So, this is a project in the Indirect Baltic Sea region's third call for proposals in innovation, natural resources, and sustainable transport. And the duration is from the beginning of 2019 until the end of 2021, meaning the project gets a prolongation of half a year due to the COVID-19. The total budget is 2 million euros, of which European Regional Development Funding is 1.5 million euros. So the prolongation, unfortunately, didn't give us more money. Here is the schedule of today. So the schedule is very tight. The first section is for work package presentations, and the second part is for the city cases where the development is done together. And there in the middle we have a tiny 4-minute break so that everyone can grab a cup of coffee. And after the break we have the city presentations and cases. And each presentation should last approximately 8 minutes, and then we have time for a few questions and discussion afterwards. And I'll remind every presenter when there are 2 minutes left on your presentation, unless I realize that you're at the end of your presentation. The cities of Turku, Hamburg, Tallinn, and Riga, and research and development organizations, Aalto University, KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Union of the Baltic Cities, Sustainable Cities Commission, and ITL Digital Lab Estonia. And the purpose, of course, because this is an EU Interreg Baltic Sea region program, is learning together, transferring knowledge, and increasing capabilities in the theme of sustainable holistic urban mobility by cooperation of the Baltic Sea cities. I won't go through this and the next slide because you'll hear the contents in more detail in the forthcoming presentations. However, as a background, all the participating cities are port cities, and much of the prosperity and identity comes from that. And of course, the ports are very close to the city centers, and either by the coastline or by the river. And people want to live close to the city centers and services, and also by the waterfront if possible. And therefore, new residential areas are built close to these harbors. And also companies want to be there. As a result, there's much increase in traffic in the harbor and city center areas, and the existing infrastructure just can't take it anymore. And therefore, in our HUPMOBILE, our objective is to provide a holistic approach to the planning, implementation, optimization, and management of integrated sustainable mobility solutions in the Baltic Sea port cities. And by mobility, we mean both people and goods, meaning freight, cargo, logistics, and delivery. And instead of just building new infrastructure, we have to be smart and find better ways and new solutions. And these including greener urban logistics, combinations of goods and passenger traffic, different intelligent traffic systems, tools for stakeholder participation and improving stakeholder processes, new tools for transportation mobility management, multi-modality, new mobility as a service concept for people and cargo, and also mobility management and taking into account citizens' participation. And due to the COVID, we have had to make some changes. Firstly, the project lasts for half a year longer than originally planned. And also we have had some changes in the content of our project because there's limited possibility to use survey data as people have changed their mobility behavior. It's a bit more difficult to disseminate the results and share the ideas with partners and followers cities due to the limitations of meeting physically. And also, therefore, it's not possible to organize the conferences and networking happenings. And also, we have here the participatory planning methods in our project. However, we can't do them face-to-face, and also testing and doing some of the mini pilots in full scale has been a little more difficult. But our project partners have found very smart ways to achieve the originally promised goals and results, and even have found new innovative ways to work in this current situation more using and applying the online tools. So, because the time is very short, we'll go further, and without anything else, I want to thank you, the present advisory board members, for joining us today. And now we go to the first work package presentation from KTH. So, Jannike, the floor or the screen is yours now.
Thank you very much, Tero. Welcome to looking forward to the presentations of improving production logistics and urban logistics. I will do that on behalf of the team, which consists of me and Amita Singh, Yongkok Yong, and Seom Virki. And in addition, we also have as a task leader in this the port of Turku. And we will see that later when we come to if you go to the next slide. So the main goal for us in Work Package 2 is to improve production logistics and urban logistics. For that, we have two main goals. We first have the a framework which we're developing and which we will later at a later stage also transfer to areas, other areas. Currently, it's only for production logistics. That is task 2.1. And then we also have simulation models. Currently, we're working at the Turku case where we simulate ports. I will present that in a video which is made by Amita. And where we also got input from Turku. And then we have a third case where we will have a look into Hamburg, but that it will be a comparison because it's a little bit different, and that will come a little bit later. I think we now start on doing that work as soon as we get some more data. So the next slide, please. Here you get an overview of our activities and outputs. The green means that it's almost finished. That's the production logistic in and around cities. That is a multi-optimization model for goods transports in urban areas. It's a framework which should be applicable for different sorts of urban mobility when it comes to different levels like decision-making at business level and at authority levels or at a more socioeconomic level. And then we also have the only work package which is or task which is not led by KTH in this work package. That is the traffic flows in and around ports. That is led by Turku, and we have made some simulations which I will show in a connected with activity 2.3 when I come to slide 5. But in 2.3, we are developing the participatory simulation models, and since it's a participatory, it means we also need the feedback, in this case, specifically from Turku. In the next step, it will be specifically from Hamburg, since they have the local knowledge and actually can give the opportunity to validate the models we building. And these models foresees that we can change different factors and also different variables in order to simulate, and we can also of course import different city maps in order to transfer it to others, but that's quite much work. So we will just do that for the 2 cities we have in this work package. And that is what will come up at the comparative scenarios, where we can see if it is possible with the framework and the simulation model we have to move it forwards. Next slide, please. So here you see the results of the 2-1. That's the representation of the framework. We used the IDEP0 diagram, as you see here, in order to connect it. In the more detail, you will see each of the A0 to A1, A2, and A3 models, where you can see what is inbound, outbound, resources, and restrictions. In each of these model levels, we've done that for the business entity level, the service integration and management level, policy making level, and the society level. They're all based on the first on a literature review, and then we made this framework, which is now validating, and we will continue to validate that in the next step in the simulation models. So if you give me the next slide, where we start on the simulation models. So here we see the results, current results of A222 and A23. This is still in work, so it's in progress. It's a simulation model of the port of Turku. As you know, it will be developed in the future. And the idea is that we can use these simulation models in order to look at different results and different possibilities, not using simulation, as you often know, from traffic simulation, but using the participatory simulation, where we look more at actually giving those with the knowledge a way of looking into the optimal solutions and the best solution based on the knowledge they have today in order to produce it for the future. We have currently some scenarios available. We have done using Zumo, which is an open source software, which is quite suitable for this purpose. We have so far been present in the video, not have had all the data we could have had, and that will be more. That's why we also readjusted, but we had some input. But as we will see, they are based on several assumptions. That means that the real model or the reality will be different than what we simulate here. That is very important to have in mind when we use it for the decision-making purpose. We will have the first online workshop with Turku on the 17th of September. So if you could start a video, please. So here we see the video. No, we do not see the video. So here we see the video. As I already said, it is based on what we have, both from public information. This is the new area. We have 6 parking lots, and we will see that later, that this gives an opportunity to change, look at how to use different parking lots in order to have that. This is the new road, which will be built in the port area. It's not there yet. It means that we do not have there. And here we have the traffic approximation for Turku, which we use for calculating the results we first have now. Here you see that we have 40,000 vehicles a day. And here you see the cargo data we also have for heavy vehicle simulations. Here you see the simulation, and here you see the implementation in Zumo. You see now the port area we're screening in. And here we will also start to see one of the parking slots. This is just one of the parking lots, and we could also use it others. Here we have 392 vehicles of different types. You will see what sort of vehicles we have. That's the advantage of Zumo. We have here a 7-meter trailer. We will also have a 12-meter truck, and we will also have a 17-meter truck. And these are already configured in Zumo so that we can use that one. We also have cars, which is important because they do influence, even if we do not look at the cars as such, but it's the background noise. Here we see on the right-hand side the simulation in Zumo, where we have the road to be planned. And here we see the traffic area, how they go out and in of the there. Here we use the first order simulation as a background traffic. Now that was the one with the lower one. Here we will see on the left-hand side of the screen the port area. So the vehicles now at the port, as you see there, but they're still coming out of the parking lot. So we have a continuous traffic here. And still we use the first order trafficization. So what you see here actually is that we do not get rid of the congestions. Well, we will see that later, but we will get moving it. Here we have now exactly more information about the parking lots. You see you have 392 spaces. Have in mind that we have 6 of them, so we could also combine them if the traffic is getting too high. But of course, if we do that, we would need to do that at the other ones. The one we saw now was the real data we got from Turku. So that was the real simulation where we didn't use the first order approximation. Now you will see what I already started on, and that is that we will have a movement in where we find the congestion back for that. This is the data peak. Now it's a traffic peak. It means that we have the second order approximation of the data, which, if you remember from the previous part. Here we see that we move the congestions from the previous one to the new one. This is where we will have opportunities to change a little bit in which sort of parking lots we're using, how we can optimize the traffic basing on what data we get, and then optimize. Here we see the different simulations and what we space. What is important with Sumo is that we also get the emissions. And that is where we can see that if we use EU6 vehicles, for instance, or a mix of that, we can actually see how, depending on which sort of parking lots we're using, we can have we can follow different parameters, or here the different emissions we have. And in that case, we can optimize and can contribute to some plans for the cities. So that was all for this work package for the simulations. And now we will have an outlook on the next 6 months. So if you go back to the slide, and then I need slide 6. So for the next 6 months, we will finalize the framework model. We will evaluate the framework using the simulation models and feedback from the cases. That would be then in the first case, Hamburg and Turku. We will update the simulation model in 2.2 so that we have one which is more precise and gives better opportunities to have a participatory decision-making process. And we will then also validate the participatory simulation model, which was actually what you saw now in Sumo, so that it's more complete and that we also know that. When we've done that, we will also start on the comparative scenarios. That's why it's white, because we haven't really started yet with the Hamburg, so that we can ensure that we have a validated simulation model, and then we can transfer it. That would mean that we would need to import the city maps. We would need to import the right data, and Heike has already started this process so that we will get it and can provide that in the next meeting, we hope. So that's all. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
All right. Hello, everybody. I am Marketta Kyttä, and I am going to present the latest work done in Work Package 3. The mobility management and lifestyles of residents will be my topic today. I'm sorry that Samira Ramezani, who has been mainly responsible for this work, cannot participate today. But let me just say that together with Leila Soinio and myself, have realized this study in city of Turku. Please, next. As many of you know, perhaps, that we managed to realize a survey in Turku region just before Corona crisis, which was great because we wanted to study normal mobility patterns of residents in Turku region. So this survey was all about urban mobility lifestyles, and originally our survey reached about 800 respondents, and we have presented some results from the survey already before, but today I'm gonna present some results from an analysis of a subsample nearly 500 respondents who gave answers to all of our questions. Please, next. So we used as our method an online Maptionnaire survey. That is a map-based digital survey. Please, next. And in that survey, there were quite a few questions about the daily travel patterns of residents, together with their questions about their attitudes. And then, please. And then about also questions about the ideas concerning the mobility in the Turku Harbour area in the future. So what we found concerning people's lifestyles was that we were able to identify 4 different personas, some kind of 4 different mobility clusters. And first of them we called pro-sustainable urbanites, which were inhabitants who value green and beautiful neighborhoods and prefer walking and cycling, and also value public transportation. These people are most often females and rather young, and they are likely to live in intensive transit zone. Next, please. The next persona we called multimodal price-conscious residents. There are slightly more of these kind of lifestyles, where the inhabitants are very flexible with different travel modes, but very cost-sensitive in their travel mode choices. They seem to value functionality over attractiveness in their neighborhood choices, and they are more often males and highly educated, but have limited budget. Next, please. And these first 2 groups clearly walk more than the following 2 groups that are coming soon, especially or even in winter time. So these are active mobility. These inhabitants have active mobility patterns because they also cycle more. So next tribe is time-conscious suburbanites, about 1/4 of them, and these family-oriented inhabitants value suburban life, and they are very busy, time-sensitive, and car-oriented. And next, please. And finally, the 4th group consists of auto-oriented residents who really prefer good access to the main roads and district shopping centers. And they value spacious housing. These inhabitants are rather old, they live alone, and they really live quite car-dependent everyday life, but they decrease their use of car if they live in intensive transit zone. Next, please. So we were interested in quite a few things concerning these 4 personas, and first we studied perceived health, and we noticed that pro-sustainable urbanites clearly had highest perceived health, while auto-oriented lowest perceived health. But when it came to perceived quality of life, we got some different results. Time-conscious suburbanites were the ones who perceived highest quality of life, and quite surprisingly, pro-sustainable urbanites perceived their quality of life as lowest. Next. Then, no, don't go very quickly. How about urban future mobility then to Turku Harbour area? Well, these different, now, next please. these different personas seem to have a little bit different attitudes towards new mobility possibilities to Turku Harbour area. Walking, bike sharing, and scooter sharing, etc. Please click. Interests mostly, please click. Interests mostly these pro-urbanites and time concepts. Please, not so quickly. Urbanites, while rides sharing, car sharing, and car rental services interest mostly these cost-sensitive urbanites. All right, next. Well, these results that I have been presenting very shortly here can be used at least, that can be used both in transportation and land use planning in our view, at least perhaps when cities are thinking about different market segments that can be targeted for different future mobility management strategies. Maybe the results can be also considered when investing to the improvements of certain travel modes or when deciding about the maintenance levels of certain routes during various seasons. And finally, perhaps they can inform land use policy more generally when estimating the best balance between supply and demand of various types of urban neighborhoods. But these discussions hopefully continue with the whole group, that how these kind of research results can be used in real life planning practice. Next, please. There is a report available that is 48 pages long, and this report will be published in October, I think, and so coming soon. It's already quite ready. And for the next near future activities, I here refer to the presentation by colleagues from Riga. Namely, we will be collaborating with a participatory planning toolkit. So soon about that. Please click. I have also, there was one thing missing here. Perhaps I was going to say that I have some news to share with you. The reason why Samira Ramezani wasn't able to come today was that she actually started as a professor in Groningen University in Netherlands in the beginning of September. So we cannot have her anymore in HUPMOBILE, unfortunately, but we have a very skillful PhD student called Zunran Tan, who will continue the work in Aalto. So thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you also from my side. So I'm Ralf Martin, so representing here ITL Digital Lab, although I'm actually full-time working as a founding director of Smart City Center of Excellence, which is nice because activities actually come together in a way that here we are planning small-scale pilots, mini pilots, and my everyday role now is to plan large-scale pilots, like in other fields than mobility as well, but including mobility. Work package 4 is on intelligent transport systems. and we have pretty much 3 tasks. If you go on the next slide, but first one is this ITS competence network building that Maarja Rannamaa from our side is coordinating, and it interlinks with ITS Estonia, ITS Finland, and also ITS global networks development. And the core activity is to develop this network through actual events. So this is the main task here, and we are quite happy that we were quite proactive in getting some small scale events prepared and also carried through. But on our hand, so we are pretty much building this network through workshops and webinars, and we have had altogether 5 workshops or webinars that we promised as well under this, starting from February 19 in Tallinn, where we went to the port of Tallinn and had a workshop there. When we also participated ITS Europe in Eindhoven in June 19, and then I joined in with Work Package 4 activities in one webinar organized in Södertälje late December 19. And then before the gates and borders were closed, also internally here in Estonia, we managed to have one very good and attended seminar in Tartu in February this year, and we plan to have the last event in June this year in Riga, with some companies from Estonia as well visiting, and our plan was to go to Turku, but both of them we have cancelled as visits, and instead we had this mini pilots webinar in June this year, also where we had Foorum Virum Helsinki as a guest speaker, speaking about Jätkäsaari Mobility Lab. And in terms of larger event, we still have promised to organize a conference as well, which has been very hectic, and initially that was supposed to take place in November this year in Tallinn, but we have cancelled it at least for this year, and we will see whether it is possible to organize something for next year, or then organize it as a web-based event. And still one option when it gets prolonged was that maybe we should link it with ITS network meetup in Hamburg later next year as well. So this is the kind of first part. The second part is ITS mini pilots, and I'm here just introducing the core framework, and later cities will introduce their ideas. And yeah, you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so I actually talked this already now, so we can go to the next slide. And here, pretty much triggered by the Finnish Smart Mobility project, which myself and Liiva Luts as well from the city of Tallinn participated. We wanted to extend this mini pilots concept also to other cities outside from this bubble here, and that's very nice that we have like a separate group of activities, separate task on this, and so the mini pilots is like a small scale experiments, trials with very limited budget. And in this case, it can be either like city challenge or traditional procurement type logic, how they are conducted. we have left it open for cities, and later, based on this, we are putting together like a policy roadmap for our cities as well, how to be more experimental in designing their activities. We're very happy that when we started initially, only 2 cities participated in this activity, but early last year we managed to get all 4 cities on board. So we are conducting those mini pilots in 4 cities, and the process in general has been that last year we developed a framework and concluded this in December 19 in Södertälje, and this year we have been, or cities mainly have been in the mini pilots preparation stage, and we introduced those like semi-publicly also as a concepts in June 20, and you will hear later as well. I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is the concept, what we are interested in is that there is actual trial, so some kind of test of idea, and it is quite different from the current setup, because we have 4 different cities from 4 different countries and different legislations and internal rules. So it is not that harmonized process, but it's city-owned driven process, so to say. And later you will get some insights as well. I think we can go to the next slide. So the last task is adaptable traffic lights, and here also City of Tallinn will provide more information. But the logic here is that there will be a pre-feasibility study on adaptable traffic lights, and the City of Tallinn would be the case. The process has already started, and most probably City of Tallinn's mini pilot will be linked with that feasibility study as well, meaning that there would be like a small scale test as well, or hotspot of this solution. So this brings together mini pilot and so task 4.2 and 4.3. And I think we can go to the next concluding slide. This process in general, especially like small scale experiments, is something which is very important and interesting, both from research perspective and from a city's perspective. And if some of you want to get more into depth with that, then I have written 2 papers on this as well, based on this Finnish smart mobility concept. And there will be at least 1 paper coming from this project as well. But if you just want to get more details on this, please check on those links once you get the slides. But my 8 minutes is over now, so I would stop here and give the floor back to the
multimodal in urban transport and travel to work areas of work package 5, and Teemu Surakka will give a presentation. There.
So yeah, hello from my part, and I will start with explaining that we look at the multimodality and sustainable urban transport in very broadly way, without being an expert in every single transport mode or aspect of sustainability. But if you go to the next slide, this is a way this is presented in our goals. So we try to highlight the existing experiences and the good work of experts, that we are not in every aspect of this project, and we try to develop tools and methods to present this expertise in a way that is easily approachable and hopefully also in a format that is usable to cities. We will be getting also a more detailed analysis of the optimization of multimodal nodes, but in this presentation I will focus on these two first goals, so highlighting the experiences and the knowledge and developing tools. Next slide, please. With highlighting the experiences, we have published early on a report that hopefully has been inspiring our partner cities and perhaps other cities as well. The title says benchmarking, but in this respect, we didn't really go into very detailed benchmarking, but we focused on the experiences, the lessons learned, and tried to present them in a way that is, once again, hopefully usable for busy city representatives, and they get inspired or get insights about different subjects. This will be a living document still, meaning that there will be updates because we are closely following projects that are near to our theme, namely Civitas Fortis and PSR Electric. But earlier on, our guiding line has been that when we get something out and is hopefully valuable to our partner cities, we publish them. And this is available at the HUPMOBILE webpage. Next, please. The next task is to develop our first tool. And this is about self-assessment of the different sustainable aspects in the cities. Once again, we are not trying to be the gurus of sustainability. We try to provide tools for city and traffic planners to make their own assessment. And of course, this won't be any real accurate result, but hopefully it will get insights where to look at, where there is a possibility to make big leaps or big impacts. This is being implemented right now, and we will hopefully publish it soon. It will be connected to it will be a part of our main output and connected to the online database that I will mention later. And if you go to the next slide, there is an example of this self-assessment that is consisting of statements organized in 16 categories. And like I mentioned earlier, or first thing in this presentation, we are building on the experiences and results of previous projects. So this is really inspired by the Civitas eccentrics, and the indicators of sustainability has come from Simplify project. So we try to turn the very heavy Simplify project results into easily digestible format that was used in Civitas eccentric. I won't go to the statements, but this intermodal integration is an example that sustainability can be really looked at broadly. So we are, or in the background of this intermodal integration, there is an idea of car-free living, that is an environmental sustainability, but it also includes the resilience of the transportation system itself, and also the accessibility of transportation. So all kind of sustainable aspects are included. Next, please. And after the self-assessment, we will be finalizing our impact assessment tool. And here, once again, we are hoping that we are not doing the impact assessment. We are creating a tool for different stakeholders to do the impact assessment themselves. So we are creating an easy interface for stakeholders to give their input and really hopefully create the impact assessment themselves. Due to COVID, we have been struggling with the conversion to online version. We tried on online workshop that wasn't quite successful, and now we are moving into more standalone tool. And if you go to this next slide, there is once again an example of the categories that are grouped in 4 stakeholders, and we used like a scale nowadays, so there is a different kind of possible impacts. And if you go to the next slide, using the intermodal integration example, this is an example of the guiding questions that the stakeholders are looking into. So we give them in this standalone tool definitions, the guiding question, the Likert scale, and examples that hopefully enable them to give an assessment of the impact. And if you go to the next slide, we are focusing on certain mobility solutions, whether they are services, technical solutions, or policies. I don't know if you can see, but this is an example of ferry bikes or bike sharing system in Turku. So the stakeholders get an idea of what they are assessing, and they use this impact assessment framework to give their input. And our humble wish is that by creating this tool, we get an online database that hosts these inputs, hosts these insights about the impacts of different kind of solutions, and it will be filtered based on the interest of different stakeholders. It will be filtered by the local aspects where the solution is being planned and will be implemented by the mode of transportation, for example. But this is still in conceptual phase, so we are trying to figure out the technical implementation. And I believe this is my last slide. So if you have questions, happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Liiva Luts, and those who don't know me, I'm project manager in the Tallinn Transport Department and working mainly with the EU projects. And now I'm just going through the intelligent transport solution approach and mainly the adaptive traffic management and mini-pilot topic. So let's go into it. Next, please. So just to remember what we have promised in our project application, we promised to increase the mobility flows using the electronic solutions and promoting the switch towards public and green transport. Basically, the main as already Tero mentioned, that all the cities are port cities, so we have the issue with the port traffic, as the traffic between Tallinn and Helsinki is quite heavy, so it means that city has to deal with it. So that's the reason why City of Tallinn is in this project, and then we try to improve the situation. So in detail, what the general idea is to make the work out the feasibility study on adaptive traffic lights. Maybe adaptive traffic lights is not in a way the good word. Maybe the adaptive traffic management will be the better, because this is the light is just one part of it, but the whole system is what we are hoping to have, which runs the lights. So, and in the case of one Baltic Sea region city, we want to make it happen so that it can be applicable for all these region cities, as this thing is quite new or not very well known. Also, we want to investigate various adaptive traffic lights market solutions and develop specific hotspots in the city as basically mini pilots to validate the technologies. So next. So brief overview of what we have done so far and what's the progress. So first we started to understand what's available on the market, and we have started discussion with potential service providers. This means that already in Estonia there is a potential companies who can do this pre-feasibility study for us. So it means that most likely we can be efficient on that. That some companies will come to work with us. Secondly, which is most important, we started to prepare the terms of reference for the study, and it has taken quite a lot of time to understand what's really possible to do with that money, firstly, and secondly, what questions or answers we are waiting for it. And also we shared terms of reference with the interested stakeholders as well. For example, the road administration in Estonia, city of Tartu, etc. So to understand that maybe they have some good ideas what should be investigating additional what we haven't thought about it. In addition, we decided closely together with Ralf Martin that there's no point to make the pre-feasibility study separately with the mini pilot, because they are related each other, and this means that we merged them. So it means that the study should also be part of the mini pilot and vice versa. Missing radio road input. So we have constructed, or City of Tallinn has now a new road, which is radio road, and this is mainly serving the traffic, inbound and outbound traffic from the port and into the port. And there are already some components of adaptive traffic management, and we are eagerly waiting that this will be ready, this radio road with all these actions, and then we can see how this can be added to the feasibility study. To conclude this, we can say that to the coronavirus and the lockdown period, we have facing the deviation about or more than half a year. But as the project got prolongation up to half a year, so it means that we are in the schedule, and we can promise and deliver the results what we have promised in the application. So next. Now I'm just going into detail what we want to investigate in the pre-feasibility study. So first, there should be a benchmark study, just to look closely at the best practices. As I mentioned, that there are not very good practice around this area and the cities, so it means that there should be some look into the world cities. Secondly, to analyze the investment and running costs. So basically, this is a socio-economic analysis to understand that is it profitable or is it worth to invest in these solutions. Then also very important is integration of the new technologies and transport modes. The shared economy, all new technologies are popping up and how they interact with adaptive traffic management. Then we hope to have a simulation, so it can be merged with the test area, but we just want to have in the test simulation proven that adaptive traffic management will work in the city of Tallinn case, and then we can rely on that. Next, also we need to, or back, not next slide, but the next we need to map also the needed data layers, so to understand what the additional data layers is needed. Also potential corridors where we can have the adaptive traffic management system, and where the most effective should be. Also, we hope that the study provider will also set up a procurement and action plan for the next steps, because very important that this study is not important just as a study, but to understand what should City of Tallinn do the next steps in order to have the adaptive traffic management system. And yeah, the terms of reference for design competition I will later speak about. So next slide, please. So and also the details of the mini pilot. So why we're doing it? So basically to validate the results of the study, and to understand in real traffic conditions proposed solutions is working or not, and what kind of conditions they have. How we are doing? So we will select the pilot area. At the moment, we have some ideas. It's related with the port direction. Also, it can be related with the airport, etc. So let's see. Then the contractor should install installation of the additional equipment, and also start test the adaptive traffic management system. So next. And just to conclude, all other related initiatives have popped up as well. So we had idea that after this study, we try to apply additional contribution for implementing the adaptive system, actually implementing the system from the Association of the Enterprise Estonia. They granted with a 50%. Up to 500,000 euros. So this is the possibility to make something really happen in City of Tallinn. And in order to apply this money, we need to make the design competition. It means that we hope that in the study also involve they provide us the design competition details. And secondly, in September we kick off Horizon 2020 project, which is called Cityscape, and it takes into account the cybersecurity of the transportation system and also the adaptive traffic management. So there are also interlinks between the HUPMOBILE and the Cityscape, and maybe also with the applying money for the Association of the Enterprise. So that's all from my side. Next slide, there's a picture of the traffic management center in City of Tallinn at the moment, and it's not very how to say, effective at the moment. And we hope that we can have some additional ways to manage the city traffic flows. Thank you very much.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Inga Pelša from Riga. I'm working as a project expert in Riga Energy Agency and coordinator for the HUPMOBILE project. And before talking about improving stakeholder processes, just a few words about Riga and HUPMOBILE. Next slide, please. Yes, so HUPMOBILE in Riga is all about the Freeport, as the Freeport of Riga as the backbone of our city's economy, being both largely responsible for the largest share of city's wealth, but also to a great deal creating inconveniences to the residents concerned. So HUPMOBILE in Riga aims at the three general aims. So it's firstly to relieve city center from the port-related traffic and so reduce the CO2 emissions. And here our humble contribution will be development of proposals for urban mobility management plan, which will be taking on board the conclusions by all our project partners, and as well as conclusions of two mobility studies I will mention a little bit later. The second general aim would be to integrate innovations in the port logistics, and here we will try to pilot a smart ITS solution or ITS mini pilot within the work package 4. And third one is to raise awareness and promote a shift to sustainable transport modes among all stakeholders. And this will be done by enhancing public participation and co-creation in mobility management. This is what is responsibility of Riga for the whole HUPMOBILE project. So what have we done so far, or what we are doing so far? So we have had the consultations with all stakeholders on mobility challenges and possible solutions. We met also with the neighborhoods or neighborhood associations of those residents that are concerned by the development of port infrastructure. So this was done before the challenging year 2020. So now we have to reconsider a great part of our ideas and conclusions due to changes of mobility patterns. So, but then from the other hand, we also see it as a good opportunity to take on board issues that we were not thinking of before the emergency situations arrived. So we have prepared procurement of two mobility studies. Initially, we wanted to focus one of them to the exploring the river transport opportunities, which, for instance, for the moment seems not too relevant or even proper in given circumstances. However, we still have a little bit time of reconsider our focus, and so we plan to carry out the procurement in autumn and winter. So, and with the prolongation of the HUPMOBILE project, so I think we are in very safe way to have good results. So regarding the ITS mini pilot, so we have changed initially planned traditional procurement process to the agile piloting and innovation challenge. So we got inspired by our colleagues in Estonia and as well as by Finnish colleagues. So we will see how it will work out. So again, it is postponed to autumn winter because we wanted to see how the situation develops with in relation to the COVID and so on. So, and we one thing which will remain unchanged, so it's that we have like 3 thematic directions for this ITS mini pilot. Is either cargo road transport flow, or passenger mobility management, or efficiency of data flow. Another novelty which we haven't been talking or mentioning before, so is that we are looking how to integrate the mobility point concept developed within another project. We are currently finalizing the cities multimodal project, how to integrate this mobility point concept also in HUPMOBILE. So I think that we have had very good results in cities multimodal, so we see how we can benefit out of that. So, and now I also would like to reiterate the invitation to Riga for the ITS networking study visit, hopefully next May or June. So I still believe we could do it, and it would be very beneficial if the circumstances will allow. But let's hope for that. And regarding the improving stakeholder process, which Riga is responsible for. So we have developed some methodology and questionnaire on port planning in cities, so which you had to fill in last winter. But of course, this current COVID reality had made us refocusing the project's participatory approach. And I will now, at this point, give the mic or hand over the microphone to my colleague Kristaps, who will explain you later more about that. Please.
Hi, all. So if we can start with the second slide or the other slide, going forward, then I would quickly just go through these few ideas. And once again, as my colleague Inga already said, we have parts or activities that we have started before crisis, before COVID restrictions and new reality. And now we are reconsidering, and I wouldn't be even afraid to say that we are freshly starting with a new way how to represent this section, 6.3, that is related to stakeholder involvement in improving that process. However, we all know that most of the activities and stakeholder involvement methods require meeting people eye to eye, person in person, and most of those activities are well developed and already well documented. However, what we thought might be beneficial for this project and how this, let's say, late turn towards a new approach, a new activity, how it could benefit this project and also benefit sharing ideas and methods of this project would be to once again to do a toolkit, which would be something that collects and unifies methods of public participation that we can use with a long distance, being distant from our public groups. So this is our recent activity that we have proposed. That would be this online-based toolkit that is that collects both face-to-face and remote tools to utilize for similar transport and mobility projects all around Europe and world. We will pretty much collect and in similar, or let's say unified methodology, create let's say a menu of methods that everyone can use with short presentations of various methods suggested, searchable and sortable database that you can easily navigate through and immediately connect with partner case studies. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a sound trouble here, but thanks for this. And then the participatory toolkit would be something that simplifies searching. That would be a plugin for our pre-existing web toolkits that could be already included in our pre-existing website. It can be easily integrated in the rest of the project partner websites. If you can stay on this slide and not switch forth and back, thank you. Then, so it would be, as I said before, a mixture of face-to-face and digital and analog tools. It would have optional feedback methods, and that would make the universal participatory planning methods describe them in a similar way. And just to conclude this, sorry. Okay, so if we can switch to the next one, finalize. So we have done this with a close cooperation, or suggested this to do with the close cooperation with our Alto partner. That's well known and well versed in all of those public participation methods that we could arrange in a nice manner. And if we switch to the next one, this should have. Yeah. So just to reiterate, it's a simplified method how to search, sort, and pick the method that's best suitable for us. It would be something that connects with our current reality, that can both show how it can be done in face-to-face occasions, but also can suggest how those pre-existing methods can be adapted to distant applications, but also just to suggest the activities that can be implemented from the beginning, designed as a long-distance methods. So, in a really quick summary, this is the whole sum of the project. It is also something that could long live and long last after the project ends, the HUPMOBILE project itself, and it can help us to spread the experiences and methods used in the HUPMOBILE project partner experiences, and it could become a tool that's being used by professionals all around the world long after the project itself. So this is our idea and something that we work on currently. So thanks for your attention. I hope that I described this activity. So I won't go into this slide anymore because I already presented that. So thank you.
Good. So I start. Hello, my name is Heike from Hamburg, and our two main perspectives are the last mile logistics and mobility as a service. Next slide, please. As you might know, we already started with a micro hub here in Altona at the beginning of January 2020. And it is located in the main station of the district of Altona. Altona is very district with a high population, and we have a huge station here in the middle of the district. And we thought that it might become very fruitful, or the output very fruitful, if we manage to get or to establish a micro hub in the station. So due to Corona, it is already mentioned from the others, we also had problems. The plan was to have a 3-month testing period and then open it officially. That didn't happen, and so we are still in the process of testing it, running it on a lower level. But as you can imagine, we can't fully run it under all circumstances we would like to test. So nevertheless, I think it is important to show the developments and to show probably the drawbacks as well, and what we have discovered so far till now. Next slide, please. As you can see, the microhub is located in the so-called cellar of the station. And we also, in the meantime, established so-called smart lockers on the first level for public purposes. We found out after a couple of months that our main partner will be Deutsche Bahn and here the daughter Smart City, because they were very flexible in terms of handling everything. And the others, like the big global players, UPS and so on, were very strict with regulations. And as you probably know from what Ralf already mentioned, we would like to integrate also startups in this project. We want to test things, and it is not possible with a global player. So Deutsche Bahn Smart City was very flexible, and that's the reason why we negotiated with them that we in the cellar have huge storage rooms and huge space for several sort of logistics. But on the other hand, this also has disadvantages, like an overnight parking for cargo bikes is not given yet. And a normal parcel shop or contact with inhabitants of the district in Altona is also, of course, not possible. And also other external services, like, for example, food, that is also not possible, not only because of COVID or Corona, but also because it's in the cellar. The advantage of this microhub is, and why we stick to it, is really the access to the cellar. Because in Altona or in the city of Hamburg, we do need to accept that most of the big players still using vans and everything. And if we set up a microhub in tiny little streets, which we also wanted to do, we won't succeed, because then they complain. And yeah, nevertheless, to sum up, Altona is at the moment, even with all this kind of strange situation that it is half in the cellar and half on the first level, a good solution. And till the end of this year, we still want to continue this process and learn from it. Next slide, please. I already mentioned it. It was from the beginning clear that we wanted to integrate into the microhub different alternative stakeholders, because we think here, and what we see from lifestyle, from different lifestyles and so on, that the normal standard microhub, so business to business and business to customers, won't work anymore. So we need much more flexible solutions. And for that, we also need much more flexible situations and the involvement of different stakeholders. For example, we have the picture on the right-hand side is a tiny little startup called Recycle Hero. And we really try to integrate them because they deliver parcels to others or food on one hand, and on the other hand, they try to pick up so-called rubbish like cardboard boxes, plastic, and so on, and bring it to special places. So we also see that it is necessary to combine several businesses. we hope that this intention, or from the results we will have from this, other cities will also benefit from that in terms of learning and how to integrate many stakeholders in one place. And we want to make clear that the standard microhub is not working anymore if we look and if we foster on active mobility and involvement of inhabitants. Next slide, please. Another second activity also in terms of microhubs is that we talked to shop owners and retailers here in Altona. During the Corona crisis, we discovered that, of course, there was an increase in orders of parcels and so on. But we also realized that the big retailers, like here, for example, IKEA or Media Market, we have a big shopping mall here. They had no problems to handle all this parcel stuff. But the small and medium-sized shop owners, they had mega huge difficulties to handle all this and to react on this. And they were not able to participate in our microhub for several reasons. So what we did is that we organized a face-to-face workshop with them, and we want to continue this process because we think the small ones, they make the area livable. They make the area interesting. It's not Media Market, the big ones, who make the city and the space livable. It's the small ones, and we have to save them in a way, especially under this Corona situation. So we are planning a next workshop where we want to make sure how they can profit from a microhub and which solutions we need to offer that they can participate in that system more easily. And we also hope with this, so to say, case studies, other cities will also profit from that because they all have the same problems. I talked to several colleagues within Germany, and of course, we have to keep and to save the small shops. Again, they make the city livable. Next slide, please. Our third activity so far within the project is that we did a survey about mobility behavior or mobility management under the employees here in our borough of Altona. So we did this online survey in June, July, and next week we will have a workshop with 10 people from our borough where we present the results and where we want to agree on the next further steps. And I think benefits for others or other cities could be how public authorities manage mobility management and how to support employees to use more environmentally friendly uses of transport and how to support active mobility. Next. So instead of saying only thank you to you, I would like to give you also an outlook for mid or end November when we have our online midterm seminar. I already can say that we have 2 keynote speakers, which will be Dr. Angela Franke from the Technical University in Dresden. She was the first one here in Germany who did during the Corona crisis a survey on cycling. And the other speaker will be Manfred Neun, former president of European Cyclist Federation, and he will give a presentation on fusion mobility, which we hopefully can discuss then in a vivid manner in terms of what is different to active mobility and how can fusion mobility add fruitful information to active mobility. Thank you so much.
Last but not least, we have the presentation from Turku, traffic flows in and around ports. Juha Jokela.
Yeah, thanks Tero. So my name is Juha Jokela. I'm working as a development manager in the city of Turku. I'll probably go to the next slide. So our big starting point for the planning was, and for the HUPMOBILE project was that we should have a new terminal, joint terminal for the both actors in Turku port. And that was the starting point in 2018. And one of the key ideas was to, there's quite much area that's reserved for traffic near the port, and as you can see from the picture, there's the castle of Turku. So to give more space to city development and make surroundings more nice and those kind of things. And next slide. So in June, then we finished the master plan for the joint terminal, but after that it became clear that the costs were too high, and in June 2020 there was brought the idea that we should have two new alternatives to study. So that's basically just started after the summer holidays. But let's go on. So we finished the master plan in I think April, and for the original location and original idea, and still of course we can use very much of this. And if we go forward, I'll tell you about few things that are included in the master plan. We did best practices in a few Baltic Sea ports. One was Värtahamnen in Stockholm, and the other one was Gothenburg port, which were most closely related to port traffic in Turku. And I think these are quite interesting when we were comparing, for example, how many places do you need for buses and how are traffic arrangements done for taxis and cyclists and so on. So I think these are usable for all ports developing their traffic arrangements. And if we go forward, then there's the actual master plan. It's not yet published, but here's one idea plan, which was for the international idea competition, architectural competition. So there was quite much time used to where the functionalities are located and which get the best locations and how many places are needed for all these different functionalities and so on. So there was quite much of traffic and technical planning involved in this. And if we go forward, one of the ideas was to how we could support sustainable transport in Turku port, and we did a toolkit about sustainable transport, and there are, I don't know, 30 or something implementation or functionalities that are listed here, and then we tried to figure out which ones are the most important and which are the responsible authorities to make them go forward. So this is again very usable, and one of the ideas was as in Altona to have these mobility hubs. One of them in port. Okay, if we go forward, then there was a cooperation involved in several things in the port planning. These three first ones were already presented an hour ago. So I won't go into those ones, but one of them was the Linnaniemi idea competition, the architectural competition. There is a picture on the right. There was, I think, something like 130 applications for this, and people were, the citizens were able to comment them, and the results will be presented, I think, in October. Okay, and if we go forward, then the last bigger thing is the ITS mini pilot in Turku, which is supposed to be a registration plate study on through traffic. Of course, there is now the thing that the coronavirus is affecting behavior, and we're still a bit following what are the impacts. But we hope that with the registration plate study, we could support decision making on the knowledge that how much through traffic there is, and what are the routes, and how could we move them on the roads further outside the city center, and that way develop the city center more livable. Okay, I think that was my last slide, or is there? Yeah. Okay, thanks.